You're watching Spotlight Ukraine, and now this is high time to reveal and debunk the Russian propaganda. And my co-host right now, Oleksandr Zamkovoi, who is the fact-checker of our assisting organization, which is called the StopFake. And now we're gonna ruin the Russian propaganda. So, the fakes that have been selected through the 7 days so far, and the case number 1. Hello, Oleksandr, and let's just listen to the first fake. So, Russian media, citing Vasily Nebenzia, the permanent representative of Russia to the United Nations, state that, the next quote, Ukraine kidnaps children from families living on the front line. Where did this assumption come from, and what is true? See next, only in Spotlight Ukraine. And after that, we will discuss.
Russia's permanent representative to the United Nations assures that Ukraine kidnaps children from parents who refuse to evacuate from war zones.
There is a quite common practice when children are taken away from parents who refuse to evacuate from areas adjacent to hostility zones, waiting for the Russian troops whom they perceive as liberators.
Ukraine does not abduct children. On April the 4th, the Ukrainian government supported the initiative of Donetsk Regional Military Administration regarding the mandatory evacuation of 126 children from 21 settlements in the region. This area is under constant Russian attacks on the civil population and infrastructure.
Evacuated children accompanied by one of their parents or a legal representative will be provided with free shelter, social guarantees, humanitarian aid and psychological support.
Nebenzia made the statement about the kidnapping of children during the so-called Area Formula meeting. Such events are often organized at the UN. They are informal meetings that allow members of the organization to get additional information on various issues of international security. In response to the outrageous Russian event, 49 UN member states adopted a joint statement.
Russia's further attempts today to justify its systematic efforts to separate Ukrainian children from their families and their country by attempting to draw false parallels to other situations is appalling.
In this way, the Russian leadership intended, through the UN, to once again legalize aggression against the Ukrainian people, as well as present itself as a peacemaker.
So, Oleksandr, why, despite the decision of the International Court of Justice regarding the arrest of Putin, why, despite all the obvious crimes committed by the Russian Federation against Ukrainian children, do the Kremlin media still spread all those fakes blaming Ukraine instead?
Well, the major goal is to mirror all that they do with on the battlefield in Ukraine, the war crimes that they do in Ukraine as well, and they try to convince the different audiences, international audiences, that Ukraine is actually doing the same, and to put all the blame on Ukraine as well. So, in order for the world to look at this war as the both sides are guilty. That's why, of course, after the resolution of the International Criminal Court against Putin and Maria Belova, they tried to convince the UN and all the countries of the world that actually there are a lot of facts proving that allegedly Ukraine is doing the same. But of course, Ukrainian authorities never kidnapped children. The only fact that they have is that our government issued the resolution that actually from those settlements that are on the front lines, children can be displaced to other regions of Ukraine, but with the support of at least one of the parent or at least one of the adults. So we can say that this is really kidnapping. This is just really saving the children's life. Whereas what Russia did to Ukrainian children, and we now have minimum 20,000 cases of deporting children to Russia without any parents, and this is really kidnapping. This is international crime.
Yeah, I see. Okay, let's go to the case number 2. So, Ukraine then quotes films staged videos to raise the morale of the soldiers of the armed forces of Ukraine. So, this information was distributed by the Russian media this week. So-called journalists used the actual video to prove themselves. Which one exactly? Let's see right now.
The so-called Z channels in Telegram, as well as some social media users, are posting footage from the filming of a video in which people in military uniforms, typical of the armed forces of Ukraine, are storming a building.
Shooting of stage videos about the effective actions of Ukrainian soldiers to maintain high morale in the ranks of the armed forces of Ukraine.
The video that is circulating on the network shows the behind-the-scenes work of the cameraman, sound engineer and pyrotechnician. In fact, it is from the shooting of the Nadia, Hope in Ukrainian, short film feature about the Russian aggression against Ukraine. The author of the posted video is Artem Kocharyan, who is the film director. On his TikTok account, there are several more similar videos from the filming process.
So the Russian propaganda calls it Ukrainian Hollywood. So what is the purpose for the Russian and Kremlin propagandists to spread such myths and depict the demoralized Ukrainian army?
Well, by using these pieces of content from the behind the scenes of multiple Ukrainian videos and films that were shot during the last year and this year, of course, they are trying to convince their own audience that actually they have proved that Ukraine produced a lot of staged videos, starting from Bucha and then, any other attacks and the damages that was made by Russian military. Actually, they try to show that, actually Ukrainians are capable to produce this kind of videos, so you can never know where is the truth, because they call it Ukrainian Hollywood, saying that Ukraine works on these staged videos all the time. But of course, this is not true, because all these shootings are very open. They are the directors show in the social media, on YouTube, every time they work on these videos, because they are mostly documentaries. Sometimes this is music videos for different Ukrainian singers, and we detect those stories all the time at StopFake, because each time we have a shooting in Ukraine of a new documentary, that's for sure these materials will leak to Russian propagandists, and they will say that these are the proofs that Ukrainians all the time produce lots of staged content. That's for us, it's just we laugh at those things. They are bizarre for us, but not so. But the Russian audience rely on these proofs, so-called proofs, saying that, well, you never know where is the truth, because you see how many videos they produce as a fiction movies, let's say.
Nevertheless, they're not trying to check the information. Unlikely we would do that. So let's go to the third case, but be quick. So the Kremlin media and the Kremlin social media users are spreading the information that the security service of Ukraine in Kherson will allegedly kill Ukrainian military personnel who refuse to stay on the front lines. So this is actually not the first time and not the first fake used by Russia to fail the mobilization in Ukraine. But still, despite that, it's also worth debunking. Let's see the details right now.
According to Russian propagandists, the proof of the decision to kill those fleeing the front line is the order of Artem Borisevich, security service head in Kherson region. Kremlin fake makers show the document but do not indicate the source.
Instigators should be detained and kept in different cells in case of impossibility of detention, kill on a spot.
The so-called document is dated March 29th and is labeled top secret. However, the paper posted by Russians is nothing more than a forgery. The Office of the Security Service of Ukraine in Kherson region draws attention to the very form in which the top secret order was printed. The department's press service reported that they do not have such forms and added that the information in it is fake.
Security Service of Ukraine did not make or send any orders of this kind. Even the paper on which they printed this fake is not SSU letterhead.
Russian propaganda actively spreads fakes about mobilization in Ukraine and its servicemen with the aim of undermining Ukrainians' trust in the state and inflaming protest sentiments.
So, Alexander, what audience is aimed by such Russian fakes?
Well, as you said, they try to convince Ukrainians that the mobilization is very harsh, that Ukrainian army is demotivated, and that, especially those who believe in conspiracy theories, these audiences, they always shout out for the so-called documents that leak from the, for example, the Security Service of Ukraine, but all of them, they are mostly fake each time because they are just forgeries. And I can gladly say that our officials, they react very fast and very carefully to these fakes, trying to explain that actually these documents were never signed, were never made. And but in those Telegram channels, anonymous Telegram channels, which are under the Russian influence, you may see lots of fakes like this based on the forged documents saying that, well, you see, actually the Ukrainian army is not doing well, and the Ukrainian soldiers are in a very bad situation. They are kept under the bad conditions. And based on this document, you see, they try to convince that even those of them who do not want to fight against Russia, they are simply killed. They needs to be somehow removed from the Ukrainian army, so physically killed. And for Russian audience, this is also a sign that actually Ukrainian army might be very weak. So probably there is still a hope that Russia can at least keep those territories that they already temporarily occupied, and maybe this will give them the hope that even Russian army can proceed further. But
it's not even the end for the Russian army.
Yeah, for Russian propaganda, the best thing now is just to give the hope to their own people.
But I would say no hope for Russians in Ukraine. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Latest news, trends, and analytics on all about Ukraine. Like, share, and subscribe. Any questions, proposals, and comments, contact us via email.